Hey gang, welcome back. It is I, DrBossKey, and today I thought I would very quickly show you guys how I did the player intro for each of our levels.
I'm placing the...
So, basically, because people are kind of talking about wanting to do small intro cutscenes, so this isn't really a cutscene, but it's a very, very short, quick loop. It's sort of like a mini cutscene maybe, and it's not nearly as complex as when I did my intro cutscenes, which are a whole level. So why don't we jump into this? Okay, so a few things here. One is at the beginning of the level here. So I have here, this is the starting point in the level. I have my little player intro, and it starts with having the player control. And I set it to stay active, and then we do a few things here. One is we hide the player character, which is DrBossKey here, this guy. And we freeze the controls so the player can't move the player character without by accident. So because people are going to use the controls, so it's important to lock your controls. And then the other one is we hold fire. We don't want people shooting accidentally just by pressing buttons while we're in this this very short intro. So and then so that's where we start. And then we start a timer here, and this is just what I wound up using. So after 1.8 seconds, because I want to time the ship. So I have the ship up here, right? The ship is basically this is just an enemy, and the ship is on a waypoint. So you can see here. So, and then we basically, you can see the ship do its thing, flies off, and away it goes. And so what we've done is we've timed roughly at about 1.8 seconds on this trajectory. We do this thing where the ship is bloop. So the ship kind of leaves DrBossKey behind and then flies off. So it's this very, very short loop here. And in order to achieve that after 1.8 seconds, so then we do another thing where we come in and double check. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we come in here, and after 1.8 seconds, we come back to the player controller. And the thing to know is that these are like toggles. So where we had hide, freeze controls, hold player, we then also trigger, in this case, we keep everything hidden, freeze, hold fire, but we have this thing called move to screen position. And here, if you move, make sure I don't save, but if you have the player controller, you'll see it has this little helper graphic here. And this is basically helping you visualize where the player is going to move. So for instance, if I if I show the guy, so there you'll see. And so that's where you want to appearing, right? So and yeah, so then you got a sense for that. So we make the duration. So this is the time it takes for the player to move from one point to the other point. And in our case, we don't really need any transition for flying, but you could use this if you want your player craft to move to a certain part in the screen, for instance. There's all kinds of ways you could do that. So this is how you would actually do that. So also if I were to do, I don't know, make that 0.3 seconds, you can see now he's moving. He's also visible at that point. Okay, so real quick, let me reload. So we made changes, and I don't want to create bugs. All right, cool. So then the last thing that we've got here is, so after that, so we have that move to screen position, which is super important. And then we also started another timer here, which was just 1.1 seconds later. I generally like to do these in order to separate my functionality, or if I need to create a little bit more time between a thing happening and another thing, then having a very small timer will help. But in this case, so after the 1.8 seconds, 1.1 seconds later, we come back to the player controller, it stays active, and then you want to uncheck all of these because where it's basically a toggle, right? So if it was checked into hide, it will now say, oh, cool, don't be hidden, don't freeze the controls, don't hold fire, don't disable smart bombs, blah, 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 blah. So you can see there are other options here. So, and that is what basically gives the player control back once the ship is moving.
I'm placing the
I highly recommend, it kind of depends. I mean, if you have a long time where the player can't interact with their player character and you take away the controls, it can feel a little bit wonky because people are like trying to control the game and they can't. There are other ways you can preface that. You could put in like fake letterbox bars or other things, or border bars if you want to do like a like a more traditional cutscene. But this is basically it. I went for a very short and sweet approach here, where this is the sequence of things. So I hope that's super helpful. Or not, you never know, but it gives you kind of an idea of how I wound up structuring it for myself. So, and other than that, maybe some other things here so you can take a look. So we got at the very start of the level, the ship comes in, flies through. We have basically a text element, which is, and in a UI element, which is the name of the music track. And then
Captain's log.
And then in our case, because this is the tutorial, we then start with the next bits of the level, right? So we, but you know, like that's all up to your preference. So, and then in order to facilitate that, you can see here, I basically have a text object here, which is the little like CD rollout, and it's set on not to loop, so it has one single animated series of frames, which gives the animation. We have then the name of the track and its parameters, and then we start some level ambience there, and then all these other things I don't think are as useful for you guys. These are just for the regular UI elements. Okay, that's it. Hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and happy shmupping. Bye, everybody.